How's it going, everybody? You know, my second favorite thing about this year is probably the cubes that have come out this year. What's my favorite thing about this year? The fact that it's about to be over. You know, 2020 is a year that nobody could have predicted, but honestly, the cube releases haven't been really affected at all. It seems to me like there's been the same amount of cube releases this year as any other year. So I think it's a good time as any to look at some of the best cube releases of this year, in my opinion.
Last year, YJ started to compete with bigger manufacturers like Moyu and Chi, and with their amazing MGC line of budget-friendly but still flagship performance cubes. And they didn't stop doing that this year. And this year, they finished up their MGC 2x2 through 7x7 line with the MGC 4x4 and the MGC 7x7. And those are two of my favorite cubes of 2020. I don't have the MGC 7x7. I'm hoping to pick it up soon, but I have the MGC 4x4. And just like the other MGC cubes, the MGC 4x4 and MGC 7x7 are some of the best priced cubes for how good they are.
Budget cubes just getting better and better has been a recurring theme in this year and years prior.
And this trend of the flagship cube price just getting cheaper and cheaper and people trying to make really good budget cubes started around 2017-2018 with the Yushin Little Magic M and the MF3RS2M.
Guys, it's better.
Followed by the Yulong V2M and Kylan V2M in 2019.
I'm serious, it's better.
And then followed by the Chi EMS and RS3 in 2020 this year.
You're not gonna believe this, but it's better. The RS3 in 2020 and Chi EMS are both magnetic flagship level cubes under $10. And though the RS3 in 2020 is definitely more popular than Chi EMS, I decided to include both because they appeal to different preferences and both of them are very good cubes. Even if the RS3 in 2020 did create the RS2M 2x2, which is a whole naming disaster, but that's another topic for another time. Speaking of naming, the next cube I picked is the Rubik's Connected, and as far as I know, it is the only cube name that could be interpreted as a complete sentence. Rubik is connected. Yeah, I know, it's genius, right? I bet next year's GAN flagship is going to be called This Cube is Great 356M.
Anyways, the Rubik's Connected is actually made by Rubik's brand, surprisingly. Rubik's brand actually decided to be involved in the speed cubing community instead of trying to destroy the speed cubing community this year. And it's worked well for them. They made an actual smart cube that's a very good option, the Rubik's Connected. It does all the things that other smart cubes do, but at a lower price than things like the GAN I, and probably has less bugs than the GAN I does, because the GAN I is just full of bugs. But yeah, it's cool to see Rubik's actually involving themselves in the speed queuing community more. And hopefully, as they've recently been bought out by a Canadian company, I hope the Canadian company doesn't take them in the wrong direction again.
Now, it wouldn't be a new year without some new GAN cubes. And I was not a fan of the early 2020 GAN cubes like the 356M and the Air M, just because they were just the same thing all over again, and they were kind of misleading to a lot of people.
But later in 2020, GAN released two products that are a lot better than the earlier ones, in my opinion. And the first of these is the GAN Pyraminx. Yeah, GAN made a Pyraminx. I imagine some people's reactions to this would be similar to, "Hey, did you know the Earth is flat?"
Sure.
Oh yeah, and GAN made a Pyraminx too.
Wait, what?
The thing that was special about the GAN Pyraminx is the core magnet system it introduced. There was magnets in the core that connected to magnets at the feet of the edges of the Pyraminx, which offered a different feel compared to most Pyraminxes. Now, the same system was also replicated in the GAN 11M Pro 3x3, which was the other release I'm going to talk about. Now, this one is different than GAN's earlier 2020 3x3s because it actually changed the design.
Wait, what?
Now, the 11M Pro, unfortunately, still has a really high price tag, but lots of people have been switching to it as their mains, which it seems really promising.
And lastly, I want to talk about clock hardware this year, because there was actually activity in clock hardware in this year. It all started with the release of the Shengshou magnetic clock. It was the first ever factory magnetic clock, and while it wasn't like the most amazing thing ever, it provided an accessible budget option that did not exist in the clock market previously. And this spurred on the release of the Qi clock, which is much more of a flagship premium clock that lots of people are using now. Before this, there really was no accessible option for clock. Basically, the only thing you could get was either a Lingao or a Rubik's clock, and both of those were bad if not set up, and they were very difficult to set up. You had to like break it open and do all these things, but nope, that's a thing of the past now. So those are my favorite cubes of 2020. While this year wasn't what we expected, it still was a good year for cube releases. Of course, this year we also got whatever the heck this is, but can't always be perfect.